Hello everyone. So today I decided to make a video about my daily routine at work. I think some of you would be interested to know what a junior doctor does as the daily routine from morning till evening and the end of the week. This is going to be very specific for the place where I work, and this is also specific for a station where I work at, so the psychosis station. Um, why I'm making this video? Well, I think before I started here, I wished somebody had made something like this to have my expectations to see actually how junior psychiatrists work. And this is gonna be a little bit of video where I speak to the camera because I will not be able to actually go there and take videos in the hospital due to privacy and data security or something like this. Yeah. But what I will try to do, try to make it a little bit interesting. I will take a video maybe of the way to work, which is very beautiful, and some clips, maybe random clips and pictures to make it a little bit more lively. Okay, all right. So how does my day start? I should wake up very early at around 5:50. Sometimes I try to be a little bit early. I have a whole routine where what I do in the morning to charge up my day. Maybe I'll do a separate video for that, but basically 5:50 I wake up. I'm ready at about 7:15. I walk to work. 10 minutes by walk. I take my time. I like to enjoy the scenery, as you can see here. Yep, so I reach work at around maybe 7:30, 7:40 if I stay a little bit longer at home. And then I have my routine there. So what is the first thing that I do when I reach the work? Sit down on my desk. I open up the application for the software that we work with. And the first thing I enter is the reports from the night that the nurses write. Not everybody does that, but I like to do it. The reason for that, why would it be interesting to see what happens that night with the patients? Of course, I'm not there, and it gives me a chance to see without all the doctors being at the department how the patient is doing. So if the patient has sleeping problems, I'll be able to see, okay, the patient woke up 3 times during the night, he complained about nightmares, or he wasn't able to sleep because he had too much thoughts, or uh, many so often actually some patients have psychotic behavior during the night. They act differently. They have thoughts that people are watching them, or some thoughts about that people want to harm them. And in that case, this indicates to me that maybe the medications are not working, or they need a little bit more time, or that we need to change them, or the patient basically is not taking the medication. Some patients are taking the medications or puking them afterwards. And these kind of things makes me have also topics to talk about with the patient during that day to see how is it going with him or her. Um, this is something that I usually do for around 20 minutes. 'Cause it depends on how many patients I have, and I find it very good, because sometimes in the morning when I ask the nurses about how my patients were doing in the night, it's not as detailed as when they were reporting it at this software. So I find it very interesting and very important to do. So what happens next? So okay, at around 8:15 we have our morning huddle. So this is at the station, at psychosis stations. We go up to the station, and then there we have a whole meeting with the entire team. And the team is the doctors, the nurses, the social workers, psychologists in case there is psychologists at the station. In our stations we don't have specifically psychologists. We are working as a psychologist as well. And the cleaning ladies as well. They are also in that meeting. And why is it important that the cleaning ladies also join? Well, first of all, they're a big part of the team. I heard many stories from the cleaning ladies on actually like crazy stories that shows like how much big part of the team. Maybe this is on a different time. I can also speak about that as well. But also, one of the goals of this meeting is to see if there are new patients coming or patients that are leaving the station. And then, of course, the cleaning ladies will need to prepare the rooms for those patients, and they need to know that information. Of course, they also need to know about specific risky patients, and it's important for them, so they'll have an idea of the state of risk at the station. So I mentioned now a few things that we discussed during this meeting. This meeting is very short. Usually it's like around 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. We have a board, and on that board there is resources. We speak basically about who is missing today. So if there are less nurses today, we have to take into account. So we shouldn't overload them with work. For example, taking blood tests for patients that are not very urgently, we can also push it for tomorrow or the day after. Medications, also if there's problems with medication that we need to order from the pharmacy, it's also there. Also doctors, we see which doctors are not present, which social workers are not present, and then we can also divide the patients to the doctors that are already present there. In that meeting also the Oberarzt, which is the chief doctor, and the head of the department also are present to get also an overview of what's happening on that station. What else? Then we talk about admissions and possible discharges. So for our patients, basically, if there is some registrations for new patients, they're there, and then we decide which doctor is going to be taking over, which nurse is going to be taking over that patient. And then we talk about risk situations. And here it's very important. As I said, during the night, things can change. The situation of the patients can change. Also, patients that are at risk of harming other patients or harming other people or harming themselves. So suicidal thoughts. These patients will be on this list. And then we will have to estimate during the day if this risk changes. And also we have to decide if the doors at the stations are going to be closed or open. Since our station is half closed, we basically can decide to keep the doors open and all patients can go in, go out, no problem, or we close it. You might ask, okay, if there's one patient or two patients that are risky, what happens to the rest of the patients at our stations? They're not allowed to go out? No, so this is not what is happening. The nurses can actually open the door for the patients that are clear, basically, that they can go out. And for the risky patients, of course, we'll have to keep assessing during the day how is the situation doing. Also, there's another possibility that half of the station is closed and half is open, half is closed, so they can divide the patients into rooms based on that risk situation as well. Okay, so after that, yeah, basically this meeting is finished and we are free. So what does it mean, free? Free basically means that we have the ability to plan our day, so we can make meetings with our patients. In our stations, there's 15 beds, 15 patients plus 2, so this 2 extra overbeds, and we have 3 rooms, isolation rooms, so 2 isolation rooms and 1 timeout room. And basically we try to divide the patients equally. Yeah. In our station at the moment there are 3 doctors, 3 assistant ads, which is the residents, and me included, and we divide them basically equally. So approximately each of us can have 6 patients, 7 patients sometimes, and we have to make appointments with those patients, talk to them, see the progress, see if they have any complaints, see if they develop reactions from the medications, how is their general feeling. Also try to do a little bit of psychotherapy with the patients. This is a topic for a different time. And also there are many things that need to be addressed during the day. So if they have meetings during the day, we have to see if they're able to attend those meetings or not. If they're asking for to go out, for example, we have to assess suicide risk, and also plan their therapy. So we have to plan what is the next step for them until they're ready to be discharged. So usually I do talks with my patients at least 2 to 3 times per week for a patient. So it needs to be organized, and depends also on the urgency. Um, so this is planning around the day, and then we have a fixed time before lunch. This is called how do you call this? Mittag report, which is a lunch report. So before lunch, we have a meeting with the entire hospital. So this is mainly all the residents, all the chief doctors of the stations, the head of the hospital, the heads of all the stations as well, the nurses, representative nurses from each station, and social workers and psychologists. So we all sit together in a big hall, and we have to present all the new patients from each station. So if I took a new patient today or yesterday during the night, the night doctor took one, we need to present them to the head of the department so he can check in the book that we have that patient in that station. And also we talk about free beds, how many free beds for station are present, and we get an overview. I find it very good. We get an overview of all the hospital, how it goes, and it's very important for the duty doctor, so the doctor that has duty that day, because when he get that impression of what's happening in each station, which stations are empty, which stations are full, he can decide where to navigate the new patient that comes during the afternoon and during the night. Of course, news and updates are also being held during that meeting, and then basically we are going to lunch. Before lunch, something very important. I mentioned that in our stations, psychosis stations, there is intensive rooms. So these intensive rooms, there are patients that basically have danger to themselves or dangers to other people, and we basically cannot stay at the station with other patients. When patients are in that room, we have to decide every day. We meet them immediately after the huddle, and we with the chief doctor, and we assess the risk or the possibility for them to actually go out of this room. In most cases, they do after their stay, so less than 24 hours. But in case they're still agitated or still not in a condition where it's possible for them to integrate back in the station, they will have to stay. And if they have to stay, we basically have to fill new forms to send the how do you call this, Department for Human Rights or patient rights, an appeal that this patient will need to stay there, and we'll have also to prove why was that necessary. And this should be always done before lunch. So it's very important to clarify this before and apply these documents as soon as possible. Of course, the patient has the right every time to involve a second opinion or a second doctor to come to the hospital and assess this, and usually it can be done, and then it will be decided whether or not it was justified for him to stay, and that we would be making the decision for him based on our medical advice. Yeah, so lunch, as we said, and then after lunch there would be basically all our meetings that we discussed with our patients will be held that time. When we have time, we'll be able to also write our discharge papers for the patients that are leaving or left. These discharge papers basically will be sent to their psychiatrist outside the hospital and to their doctor, the house doctor, family doctor. And we will have to also to talk to the doctors on the phone, update them about the situation of the patient, the new medications if he started, and general guidelines. For example, if he will need every month blood taking for specific medications to check the side effects of it on the blood levels, for example, clozapine. I'll be able to talk about it maybe on a different video. And yeah, and then basically we have sometimes also meetings with family, education for family members, and with the patients we have those meetings where we try to educate the patients, teach them how to handle also the disease, because this is not only about the patient. When it's about psychiatric disease, it's also important to integrate the integration of them in normal life. So in family, we also try to integrate them into activities outside the hospital, maybe work therapy, um, art therapy, walking therapy, sport therapy. And I find it very important. It's also important to mention actually during the morning report that special services such as the instructors for the sport therapy and art therapy are also present in those meetings, because they will need to know which patients are actually able to attend their workshops, and it's important to mention. Yeah, and of course, one more thing we do after lunch is new admissions. So until 4:30, all admissions that are directed to our station, the doctors there are the ones responsible to take to do this admission. And when a doctor gets a patient, he becomes the case leader. So he needs to ensure that the case is moving forward. So if the patient needs a new housing, if he was, for example, how do you call this? Convict. Was fired from his previous home, or this secure home for patients that are not able to live alone. So we will have to, for example, find a new place for them to stay. So from the social aspect, we have to push forward. So to talk to the social workers to try to push the case forward. From the nurses aspect, also to try to push this forward. For example, if they need something called Speaktext here, which is nurses that come to the patient's home once a week, twice a week, to try to build for them structure in their home, to talk to them, to try to give them a little bit of also therapy. And all these things we have to try to push forward until the patient is able to be able to go out of the hospital. Yeah, so then what happens after these meetings? That day basically ends. Usually we go home at around 5:36 in the evening. Sometimes we will have to stay a little bit longer if we didn't finish writing, for example, the discharge papers for some of the patients. And it's very important to finish them quickly, because yeah, also statistics are important for the hospital to get the money from the insurance company, but also it's important for notifying the basically doctors that will be handling the patients after their discharge, to get all the information of what has been done and what needs to be done, and guidelines. Yeah. Then important things that also I think is very important is that other things that are, I think, are very nice for the structure of the hospital is the Monday meeting and the Thursday meeting at our station. What do we do in those meetings? On Monday meeting, we sit down with the team, which is nurses, the chief doctor, and the doctor that is responsible for the patients, and we discuss all the patients that we have in the stations from the first, the last, and we see what is missing, what needs to be done, what is the situation of the patient. And then on Thursday, we go and check again what has been done during the week, what didn't go well during the week, and we give feedback to how can we move the case forward, how can we help the patient in the best way in order for him or her to be discharged from the hospital. One more thing is case presentations every Tuesday. We choose one patient at the station and we do a case presentation. We talk about his history, about his childhood. We talk from the beginning to the end, see how the patient developed the disease or developed the conditions that he's in. And then by the end of this case presentations, we invite the patients to enter the room, and the head of the station will have a conversation with him, and this is a chance for us to learn how to lead a conversation in a therapeutic way, so the psychotherapeutic way, and also to see how can we help the patient integrate back into society in a good way. So this is the case reports. So interesting cases that we choose together with the nurses. We choose one patient, and the doctor that's responsible for that patient needs to prepare a presentation about this patient, and of course notify the patient that by the end of it he will come into the room, and we discuss the patient with the head of the hospital, head of the department, sorry. Yeah. One more thing is journal club. I think it's very common in hospitals. Journal club is basically talking about recent research about different psychiatric conditions or medications or studies. Yeah, so basically it's about studies, and this is a good way for us to learn about the new steps in psychiatry. So if there's a new medication that proved to be effective in, I don't know, schizophrenia, or if there's a new study about suicide risk assessment that proved to be very effective. So this is a chance for us to learn about the recent new studies that can help us during our daily practice. I find it really good, and this is, we do it usually, the doctors are doing it, or sometimes when block students come to our hospital, they are responsible for those journal clubs. One more important thing is Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, we have psychotherapy sessions with psychologists. Basically, he teaches us tricks and techniques or strategies of how to approach specific patients. This, for example, this I'm still new, so I haven't been to those meetings very often, but once I will start going there, maybe I'll do videos about this. I think it'll be interesting because the technique that they teach there, they're very useful also on a daily basis, how to approach it. For example, in my last time that I was there was patient with depression. It's about a case about patient in depression that one of my colleagues presented, and he was not very. He was very angry about his girlfriend, if I remember correctly, and we wanted to confront him about these fears, but not in a direct way. We didn't want to bring the girlfriend and it's like to have like a conversation together. So he gave us a technique to try to sit in front of the patient and tell him to imagine that we are now the girlfriend, and to try to talk to her directly to see what is causing the conflict within him. So when he talks about that from our side, then we would ask him to switch seats. He will sit on our side and we will sit on his side, and then he will try to react to the things he said to us. It's a little bit weird, yeah, but I think, I never tried it on a patient myself, but I think it could be effective in a way for us from the side to see where this conflict is coming from, and then try to address it later during therapy. Of course, we try not to overload the patient with too much. Sometimes we take notes, and then in next meetings, we address conflicts and inner conflicts and trauma, for example, with patients. Yeah, last thing I would mention is Thursdays usually are half day for us. It's education day, I think we call workshop day. We decide where we want to have our education day. It's either in Bern, the capital of Switzerland, in Basel, and I think there's also in Zurich. I chose Bern, and there they basically every week they give us lectures, like student style. You sit in a hall and lectures about this different psychiatric diseases, therapies, approaches, and basically this is for education purposes. This is part of our curriculum that we need to do in order to become specialized in psychiatry in here in Switzerland. Um, yeah, and one more, yeah, this is also I remember. We have to choose as doctors during our first year a branch of psychotherapy that we would like to specialize in or to be good. There's the CBT, the cognitive behavioral therapy. There's psychoanalysis, and there's one more branch of psychotherapy which is very special to Switzerland. I do not remember it. I just remember that it was not very recommended by my colleagues because if I want to practice psychiatry also abroad, it's not recognized. And it will be only useful when I work here in Switzerland. So I would think I will be going to cognitive behavioral therapy, um, and uh, and this is a little bit early for me. As I said, I'm working here only 2 months or 2 to 3 months. So now I'm leaning toward the cognitive behavioral therapy, but I actually would like to compare psychoanalysis and cognitive behavioral therapy and see which one would fit me better. Maybe I can make a video about that. It'd be also interesting. Yeah, so I hope I didn't overload you guys with too much information. I found this interesting, and I think if in the past I was watching this kind of video, it would be also good to have an overview to see how actually a day of a psychiatrist is structured here in Switzerland. So have a good day and see you in the next video.